Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Quiller, and welcome to the Air Force Culture and Language Center's Facebook Live episode for January. Joining me online today are Ms. Crystal Moore and Ms. Roxane Porter from Force Development, Deputy Chief of Staff for Manpower, Personnel and Services, Headquarters Air Force. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. So let's get started. Ms. Moore, tell us about yourself and how you became a key leader in the language, regional expertise, and culture enterprise.
Well, good afternoon, or maybe morning if some people are overseas dialing in. Thanks for having me today. So I got into this position maybe a little unconventional. And so I'll tell you a little bit about me, and then I'll give you some points that I think are applicable to everybody, whether you're in this functional area or not. So if you may have seen my bio, I actually started out in the active duty Army. And while I was in the Army, I got the chance to work in air defense artillery, which was the Patriot missile system, and then finance. I got out of the Army, and then I transitioned over to Air Force civilian service. And I also transferred my commission to the Air Force Reserve. So I like to say I, figured it out just a little bit later. And again, I was in financial management. But in 2011, I got the opportunity to transition over to the Air Force Personnel Center. And that began my journey in workforce development and taking care of people from a personnel standpoint. And I was there for 9.5 years doing various jobs. But my last job, I was able to do a lot of workforce development for the enterprise. And so that's how I ended up in this role, which is the Director of Force Development. And as the Senior Language Authority, that falls under my role as being the Director of Force Development for the Air Force. But for everybody on the line or watching this later on or on our Facebook Live, there's a few key things that I think everybody can focus on to advance in their career. The first thing is experience, and especially in this area where you're learning a language and trying to become proficient, potentially if it wasn't your first language, getting that advanced proficiency, deepening your regional expertise, and cultivating the understanding of that diverse culture. But that could apply to any job you take on, just getting that deep experience in your functional area. The second thing is education and training. Working towards your educational goals, whether that's an actual degree with a university or a college, or maybe even the CCAF if you're enlisted, to pursuing things like professional military education. If you're enlisted, that'd be NCO Academy and things like that. If you're on the officer side, Squadron Officer School, Air Command and Staff College, and those types of things. And then, of course, your training or certifications as well. And in this area, if you can find things that are related to language, international relations, cultural studies, that'll further advance what you're doing in the the language and regional expertise or culture area. The next one is leadership. So you can take on leadership opportunities either within your organization or projects, even if you're not a supervisor. And that's what I like to tell people. You do not need to be a supervisor to take on leadership roles. Or maybe you participate in a private organization outside of work where you are voted in as an officer of that private organization. That also gives you some leadership opportunities there. Next is being an engaged employee. And I think regardless of your functional area, this is important. But I also think in the LREC community, this becomes potentially even more important because if you're an engaged employee, you'll be able to stay current with developments in international affairs, geopolitics, various cultural trends in your specific area, and then also building a strong professional network, especially if you're not in an environment where you get to speak the language on a regular basis. Being able to build a network that you can practice those language skills, outside of work. And then there's also opportunities to attend conferences, workshops, or seminars to even further your knowledge. And just being engaged overall helps to grow your knowledge set. And then the next one is get a mentor, be a mentor. So everyone has access to the MyVector platform, which is located out on my FSS. And out on MyVector, you can register to be a mentor if you would like to actually be a mentor for others. And you can search other registered mentors that are online, so you can actually sign up and request a mentor yourself. And I think learning from other experienced leaders or mentors will improve you, and it'll also improve others if you become a mentor. And then I think the next one is publications and presentations, especially in this field. When you think about geopolitics, international affairs, those types of things, taking opportunities to either write publications that could be published online or within your community, or even giving presentation to others so they can advance their knowledge. And then finally, performance in your job. So I always tell people, you can accomplish all of those things that I talked about, but if we're not performing in our job, then sometimes that can hold us back. So the key is performance in your job first, and then working towards those other areas that I mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have quite a few LEAP scholars in our audience today, and also we have some AFCLC staff members. Before we go any further, we are going to take some questions at the end. So start getting your questions together and dropping them in the chat, so that if we can't answer them online here, because we keep in mind this is an unclassified format, we are streaming live to Facebook, we'll get them answered for you with the ladies later, and we'll get them to you, your answers to you, as soon as we can. So next, over to you, Ms. Porter. Would you mind telling us about yourself and how you became a key leader in the LREC enterprise?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Well, afternoon, everyone. As an Air Force veteran, my career path started with my skills from what I gained in the military. I was freight trafficking and cross-trained as a paralegal. And as I retired from the Pentagon in operational law, I started out as a contractor, but then went into the government and was hired for my skills. And at that particular time, I ended up in SAFA doing international agreements. And that came easy to me because that's kind of like some of the things I was doing as a paralegal and so forth. But everything that Ms. Moore just told you is what I have done. I piled on to the skills I already had and took advantage of career development opportunities following that enterprise track. I incorporated PME as soon as I was able. I did all my PME. I have my academics, my master's degree, bachelor's, master's, experiential assignments. I did the C-STEP program and enormous amount of leadership training. I put all that in my individual development plan, and I took action to make sure I got all those things done. So I followed that plan. And then from there, from all that I gained and all the experiences that I had incorporating all those things that Ms. Moore just mentioned, is I was able to take that and build a strong resume that would allow me to compete for the type of jobs that I am in now. And here is the example, i.e. the LREC Division Chief leader. And so everything that she just mentioned about PME and leadership and mentoring and development, take those things seriously, make a plan, take advantage of those opportunities, speak with your supervisor and your mentor as the way you want to go, and put all that into action, and then keep moving forward, because what you're doing is you're building your credibility and your resume so you can be competitive. And that is how I end up in the seat that I am in today.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Moore, if you don't mind, can we drill down just a little bit and talk about the Air Force Senior Language Authority and your role in that position? What falls under your profile as the Air Force SLA?
Sure. So the first thing I think I want to clarify so everyone is aware is that the responsibilities are the DAF Senior Language Authority. So that means that we support both the Air Force and the Space Force. They don't have LEAP, I don't believe, but they do have language capable airmen when you think about astronauts, they need to have language. So that's one area where they do have language capable airmen. And so anytime you work at the air staff, there's some key functions that you have no matter what job you're in. And the first one is to set policy, to oversee and set policy for the Air Force. The other thing is to identify strategies for the various programs that we're responsible for so that we can keep the programs viable across the Air Force and operating properly. That includes things like doing process improvements to the program so we can keep improving. But some of the other things that we do is we manage language training and ensure that the language capabilities that are across the DAF meet the operational needs. As an example, we get numerous requests, which maybe some of you have participated in, where we need some forces that have your skill sets to go help in a mission somewhere. And then we get those requests and help facilitate finding a match to get them matched with whatever that mission set is. And then we also integrate across all of the different areas that have language. So you're all mostly familiar with the LEAP, but we also have cryptologic linguists, CLAs, and we also have FAOs. And so we make sure that all of our language policy and strategy takes into consideration all of our language capabilities. General purpose force as well. Didn't mean to leave you out if you're online with general purpose force, but those as well. So we do have a diverse set of individuals and missions that have the language requirements. And then one final thing, which is pretty interesting that I didn't know when I took this job, is most of you are probably familiar with DLI. The Army is the executive agent for foreign languages, mainly out at Monterey, but they do have a few satellite offices. But the Air Force is the executive agent for the DLI English Language Center at Lackland Air Force Base. So, so I am the executive agent over that school. And SAF MR has delegated all these responsibilities to me from the Secretary of the Air Force.
Sounds like you definitely stay pretty busy.
We do.
Ms. Porter, I don't think many people realize that the Air Force operates an LREC division. Can you talk about how you support the Language Enabled Airmen program and the General Purpose Force?
Yes, no problem. The Air Force A1DG is the LREC division. We're the focal point for all of DAF LREC matters and support Ms. Moore as the DAF Senior Language Authority. She in executing and overseeing all LREC related policy and guidance, training and development, tracking and utilization of all language enabled capabilities. Air Force COC, that's how we connected, receive policy, resource and program requirement guidance and directions regarding the LEAP program and the General Purpose Force from Ms. Moore, administered through A1DG. So A1DG is her support office, and then this is how she execute everything that she's responsible for as the executive agent and the Senior Language Authority. It comes through our office. And I want to say kudos and a heartfelt thank you to the A1DG team for their hard work and the tremendous work ethic that they have. We are small but mighty, and I have a wonderful group that sits in A1DG.
Yeah, sorry, Roxane.
Everything that we do support Ms. Moore in executing her duties. And we are the single point for all DAF LREC related issues.
There was one thing I wanted to add that you made me think of when you were speaking, Roxane, is so we also serve as the PEM, which is the Program Element Monitor. And what that means is all of the budget and resourcing that is required for the programs in LREC, they get programmed or submitted through the installation level, mainly Air Education and Training Command, but a few others as well. And then they come up to our office and we make sure that all the requirements get appropriately resourced in the POM, the Program Objective Memorandum, to be able to get a budget to support all the programs that we have.
Yes. That is for CLC and DLI ELC.
So Ms. Moore, back to you. How do language proficiency and regional cultural proficiency fit into force development? Switching gears just a little bit.
Sure. So I guess first I'll say, I think regional culture and the proficiency and the language proficiency is really becoming such an important piece of what the Air Force needs, especially as we look at the changing environment, operational environment, as we shift more from the Middle East type mission sets to potentially the Indo-Pacific, Africa. And I think we're starting to see more and more requests for talent, just like you all on the line. But they definitely play crucial roles in force development by enhancing the military effectiveness in the various operational environments. I've seen numerous comments on the Air Force CLC LinkedIn page when articles are written at how much some of the cultural experiences and missions that individuals get to go on really enhances their ability to develop both within their language and understanding the culture of the regions that you're serving. Let's see. And so being able to develop and be a part of all of that really contributes to better communication, understanding, and collaboration during the missions. If any of you have read the 2022 National Defense Strategy, I actually looked it up today, and I did a control find in the National Defense Strategy, and I looked for allies and partners, that term. And it is in the National Defense Strategy 141 times. So if that doesn't tell you that the development of your skill sets and the contributions to the Air Force and the DoD isn't great, that document definitely helps to show you how important it is. It allows us, everything you're doing allows us to build that rapport and navigate local nuances or even adapt our strategic approach based on the cultural context when we're working with our allies and partners. And of course, this supports diplomacy, intelligence gathering, and overall mission success, because as we shift to the Indo-Pacific and potentially China being our competitive country, we need our allies and partners in order to win. We're not going to be able to do it alone with just the U.S. military. So that's how I believe it fits in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Porter, this question is for you. Are the Air Force recently made significant changes to the foreign language proficiency bonus or FLIP-B eligibility? Can you give us an update on the latest implementation of that policy?
Sure. Let's see, the new policy, DAF 36-4005, with the FLIP-B new pay tables can be viewed and downloaded off of the Air Force e-publishing website. So anyone can get hold of that and read and see what all the new changes are. The new pay table was implemented 1 October. So that the new pay rates are in effect right now. So if check your pay, your FLIP-B, and if it's not, then get with your local TCOs to make sure they do a CMS case to make sure we get that corrected. And they'll be able to help you with that. Now, AFPC has posted a policy implementation update on MyFSS. You can log into MyFSS, and in the search box, just type in FLIP-B, FLPB, and the search box will bring you right up to the latest update and standards that they have. They've done a tremendous job with putting the updates out about implementation step by step. So I encourage everyone to go to MyFSS and download that knowledge article for that information.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Moore, you mentioned that you were leading mentoring and coaching initiatives for the Air Force, and coincidentally, January is mentoring month. How can LEAP scholars use these programs and tools as mentors or mentees with respect to LREC and international affairs?
I'm so glad you asked the question. So not as my role as a senior language authority, but in my role as the director of force development, we have a separate office that oversees the mentoring and coaching programs across the DAF. And so one thing I wanted to talk about just real quickly is the difference between mentoring and coaching. So mentoring, as I mentioned, you can go out to my vector, you can sign up to be a mentor, or you can get a mentor if you're interested. But the goal of mentoring is for you to get experience, get information and talk through maybe challenges that you're experiencing with somebody who has more experience, or has maybe been in the situation that you're in, and they can give you advice to help talk you through. Coaching is a little bit different, and every single airman, officer, enlisted, and civilian, and guardian has access to coaching capabilities. And with coaching, you're actually going to get an individual who is going to walk you through critical thinking thoughts, where they're going to ask pointed questions to you, and you're actually going to talk through and come up with solutions to maybe solve a problem or a challenge that you're dealing with at that moment. I did provide, which hopefully we'll be able to post or get out to everybody, a couple flyers that we have on both mentoring and coaching. So there's multiple avenues you can get access to a coach. The mentoring is mainly through my vector, unless you know someone that you want to reach out to and just connect that way for mentoring. But as I mentioned previously, you could really grow in your skills by having a mentor. And then depending on the challenges you might be having, whether it be in your personal life or your professional life, you can use the coach to work through some of those challenges. And one thing that we have for civilians, I'm not sure if we have any civilians or supervisors of civilians on the line, but civilians through the Civilian Leadership Development School has a 3-part coaching course where the supervisors can get level 1, 2, and 3 certified for coaching. And what that is more coaching for supervisors in order to coach for performance and help your employees to perform better at work. And then the final thing I wanted to let you know about is every year we put a data call out for 2 coaching culture facilitators course. And what that is we actually put you through a course where you learn how to become a coach. And at the end of that, you do have a requirement to coach others, a small, I think it's 60 hours of coaching over the course of a year or 2 that you give back to others in the Air Force. But it starts you out on being able to get your International Coaching Federation license, which is the internationally recognized coaching certification. And we do put out data calls for 2 cohorts each year, and it's around 40 individuals each time we do that cohort.
Mentoring and coaching is truly a fulfilling proposition. If you've never been a mentor, it's certainly something to look into.
Just to pile onto that, even if you're not learning to be a coach, but you're taking advantage of coaching.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, everything that they offer is just not personal coaching, but they have coaching on nutrition, on sleep, exercise, fitness. So it's like a smorgasbord of things that you can do under coaching, and it's very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely something that can enrich your life and your career as a whole. Ms. Porter, I have one last question for you before we take some questions from our audience. Mm-hmm. What advice would you provide our LEAP scholars who are here with us and listening through Facebook with respect to their own professional development and mission support?
For LEAP scholars, my advice would be to stay committed to your training. Complete your e-mentor courses on a timely manner. Strive to achieve that LEAP SCI. And then the newest thing that they have now that I think that all LEAP scholars should take advantage of is that self-reporting your utilization in Leader. I believe everyone has access to that. If you are in the LEAP program, you have access to that too. Take advantage of it, and let's annotate this, what you're doing, so we can share that information up the chain. That's very important. And then plus we have a permanent record and documentation of the type of work and how these language skills are being used. So take advantage of that self-reporting. All these actions, have a positive spotlight on language training and service as credibility for senior leaders. And then when it comes to language training, it gives credibility to what we're doing and what we're trying to do and why we need to do it. Your language skills, your high proficient language skills is needed. And I'm gonna take the words from SecDef as he stated, your language skills can create advantage for us and a dilemma for them. And that's why your skills are needed and why you need to stay up on what you're doing. Your language skills can be our greatest advantage. And so that means that you need to be forever ready. And how you're gonna do that is do your training, continue your training, and take advantage of the training tools that is presented. The Air Force spends lots of money on these training programs. I think there's one out there now for tutor. If you have tutor hours that's been given to you, use them. You'll ask for tutor hours, but then you don't utilize them. Someone else could be using those hours. So we need you to be proactive in your own learning, because we can present it to you, but we need you to take advantage and actually, do the training and stay up on what we're doing. And so for your own development, you have to take responsibility and use all the tools that is available to you. And there are many. So don't sit on your training. And that's all my best advice to all the LEAP scholars out there is do not sit on the training. Take advantage of it.
Well said, ma'am. Are you ladies ready for a few questions?
Yes.
Okay, we have one here from Facebook. Does language pay apply to reservists as well, or only to active duty?
Language pay, if you're eligible for Flip B, is also eligible to reservists.
Okay.
I can't quote the exact paragraph that's in the AFI, but there is in the AFI that talks about reserve and guard that's within the Flip B policy.
And if you don't have that DAFI, we can certainly get it for you.
Right, and it's also available on the Air Force e-publishing website.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so can I just add one thing that's sort of related, but not exact? Sure. It goes back to Roxane's last question and Flip B overall. With the tutor program and other ways that you can increase your proficiency, the way that the new Flip B pay table has been structured, it's really to incentivize individuals to increase their proficiency. So if you're at a 2 or a 2+ and you get up to a 3, then the Flip B pay table is structured in a way that you would be able to get additional Flip B payments. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the new policy, I encourage everyone to take a look at it, because there could be opportunities for you to either increase your proficiency or add another modality and get additional pay.
So this is a question from one of the audience members that's here in the chat with us. Curious if there is plan to strategically place and embed LEAP scholars within bases and units that frequently execute missions that utilize and require culture and language skills.
I will take that question.
Okay.
Roxane is looking at me because I'm so glad you asked that question. We just had a meeting with Dr. Ward yesterday regarding this topic. There is an effort right now to take a look at the AFRIGEN model and what types of positions are going to be assigned to the Air Task Force units. And within there, they are looking at ensuring that we have individuals who are language coded and ready to advise those wing commanders, depending on whatever region they might be going to. But the other thing that my vision is that I hope that we can implement is expanding that even further, and not just having it under the AFRIGEN model and the ATF organizations, but have that across the force. So if we do get taskings to deploy and it's outside of an ATF unit that already exists, that we already have your skill sets embedded in the wings to be able to advise those commanders. So I guess my answer is two-part. There is already an effort underway as it relates to AFRIGEN and ATFs, but we're also looking at more units that won't be necessarily an ATF type unit in the future.
So this is a question that actually says is related to that same question. Is there talk about granting tasking authority to GCCs or other organizations over language speakers for emerging requirements? There's actually three parts to this question. Do you want to answer that one first? Or just let me keep
yeah,
going?
I don't know, Roxane, if you have an answer directly for that, but I do we not get already requests from the COCOMs and the GCCs for those skill sets through?
Yes, we do. From all different venues, we get these requests. And so we supply, the capabilities that we have that can support all those the requests. But I didn't hear the last part of the question. But
This
to
one,
answer your question, Ms. Moore, yes, we do.
This one, we'll send it to you guys.
Oh, okay.
We'll send it to y'all.
Okay.
The rest of that one, we'll send it to y'all.
Okay.
This is another one from one of our audience members. How is the International Health Specialist Program integrated into the LREC enterprise?
Well, you have some international health specialists now that are receiving Flip B for their language skills. And again, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know the exact paragraph in the Flip B policy, but there's a whole section in there about international health specialists within the Flip B policy. And so that is one of the language communities.
And is there an effort to utilize IHS SEI holders in capacities other than the limited number of IHS assigned billets?
And what capacity would they want to be used? Because again, if we have
Yes,
like
ma'am.
a contingency or language support, it does not matter what your AFSC is. If you have the language that is required, we reach out to everyone all the way across the general purpose force. So it's not necessarily that you are international health specialist or you are maintainer. If you have the language that is needed to support this mission, this deployment, this humanitarian exercise, then we're going to reach out to you and to support. So it's not necessarily built on a specific career field, but your skill. We're looking for your skill regardless of the AFSC that you have.
And our last question, Ms. Moore, goes to you. When is the next coaching course? And this is a question from Facebook.
So we're actually right now in the middle of one that started in February. I'm assuming you're asking for the coaching culture facilitators course. There's one happening right now from February until May, and those individuals will graduate May. The next one, the data call, should be in August, and that course will run from, it might be in July when the data call goes out, because the course will be from August until November.
And I want to make sure, but I'm thinking that was our last question. I don't see any others. Someone did drop a MyFSS link in here in the chat. For those of you who are online with us, if you want to grab that, it's a link to one of the answers to the questions. If you want to grab that real quick. Ladies, do you have any final thoughts that you want to add before we sign off?
I was going to actually ask you real quick, Lori, is there going to be a mechanism for you for the flyers on coaching and mentoring to be able to be posted either through Facebook or some other mechanism?
I think we can work something out. Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about finding a way to write a story so that we can get the flyers out there even better.
Okay.
And I can contact you guys for that,
Yep.
for more information. Yes,
That'd
ma'am.
be great. Thank you so much, because we have a few weeks left in January, and we have a few more activities planned for National Mentoring Month that people can participate in. And we have QR codes that you can actually use to log into the event. So
Okay.
it'd be great and then there's also a flyer on all of the coaching resources. So if you wanted to access a coach, there's options and information in the flyer about where all of the coaching opportunities exist and how you can access them. But Roxane, did you have any closing remarks? And then I'll close up with a couple comments myself.
Yes, I just can't stress enough that don't sleep on your language skills. Be forever ready. And if you don't already have that speaking modality, I encourage you to go out and schedule that OPI and get that speaking modality. Yes, you can do a single modality for Flip B, but when it comes to request for forces, a request for information, request for capabilities, when we're pulling our roster, I'm looking at speakers. It's kind of hard if I don't see that speaking score. I can see reading and listening, but I need to know that you also have the speaking capability. So I encourage you all to get that OPI and get that speaking modality on your record. But be forever ready with your language skills. That's it. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'll just close things out by thanking everybody, because I kind of touched on the importance of your role for the DoD in one of my answers, but I want you to know that I truly believe that the skills and capabilities that you bring to the table are exactly what we're going to need for the future. And I believe so strongly in that we're working hard within A1D and working with CLC down at Maxwell to enhance the programs that we have available to you, enhance the certification capabilities for regional expertise, SEIs, and opening up some other programs for folks that aren't part of the LEAP program, because it's that important. And so I just want to thank you all for the skills that you bring to the table and all of the work that you are putting in to keep your skills proficient and honed, over time. If you weren't a native speaker and you learned another language outside of that, it takes time. I know it takes time. And so I just appreciate everything you're doing to hone your skills, to keep your skills fresh, and support the overall DoD mission, because it's truly critical to what we're doing today and what we're looking to be doing in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And Ms. Moore, Ms. Porter, it's been such a pleasure hosting you for our 2024 kickoff episode of AFCLC's Facebook Live series. Before we sign off, I'd like to extend special thanks to my outreach partner, Ms. Michaela McCurry, who's our tech genius behind the scenes today, AFCLC Director, Mr. Howard Ward, Language Division Chief, Mr. Christopher Chesser, Chief of LEAP, Lieutenant Colonel Charlene McGinnis, and everyone who joined us here today in the Air Force's Global Classroom. And remember, we are AFCLC.
Thank you.
Thank you.